Firstly, just to say Stephen sends his apologies. He really did want to be here, and it's something he prepared quite a lot for, but it really was a last minute type thing. I'm actually quite pleased to have been pushed in to speak in his place, because I've recently taken a new role at BRE, and that role is around leading the development of new products and services to support the flood resilience action plan, and ultimately better protect people and create better, safer places. So just to give you a bit of context to some of the recent work, I'd like to give you a couple of quotes to reflect on from around a decade ago. The first was from David Crichton, who states that around the world, no other natural hazard has claimed more human lives in past decades, ruined more fertile land, or destroyed more houses than flooding. Climate change will simply accelerate an already fast increasing risk. The second quote is from a national trust in America that states no other element is as destructive to buildings as water. And I think it's really important to take stock of that quote and really consider what the immediate and longer term impacts are of flooding, and how this can really devastate both business and families. And then I think we have to consider what we can do, or what we should do, or what we need to do to help to protect people. So 10 years on from these quotes, and where are we? Do we have more awareness of flood risk? I would say we do, yes. There's certainly more standards and more legislation in that area. Do we have more awareness of the impacts of flooding? I think, again, with increased television coverage, with more kind of social media activity, we certainly do. Do we have more flood resistant or flood resilient products in the marketing? Again, yes, we do. And do we have better standards? We do, to a good degree. But the question I'd kind of like you to think about is this enough? Do we have enough? Have we done enough as an industry to protect people and places? I would say at the moment probably we haven't. The National Flood Resilience Review stated that record rainfall and river levels have led to widespread floods severely affecting cities and communities, bringing misery to the lives of thousands and seriously disrupting business and livelihoods. We need to recognise that there is a non-negligible chance that we will see further events of a similar or maybe even a greater scale over the next decade. Now, I think the very important part of that quote is where it says there's potential for even greater scale, which means further damage, further disruption, further suffering for people. So we really need to think what we can do as an industry to implement better practices that could essentially reduce these consequences. This also supports the first quote from David Crichton, which echoes the theme of increased risk. The review also goes on to say that although it's clearly right to focus on ensuring the resilience of the most critical infrastructure assets, the lives of communities can still be heavily impacted by the loss of other infrastructure assets. So those other infrastructure assets to be our homes, businesses and kind of roads. And this again reinforces the theme of the severe impact and the need for protection of people and places. So in order to support and enable better uptake of resilience measures, DEFRA obviously commissioned this Property Flood Resilience Action Plan. It was chaired by Pete Bonfield and supported by Stephen, who led on Task Group 4. And his key remit was to consider the lack of consistent standards, consider new standards for products and certification related to property, so this could be new build, existing property and materials, and also consider the skills needed in professionals such as surveyors, contractors and builders. One of the key messages coming out of the Task Group 4 work was to say that appropriate standards, certification schemes and skills are needed in the property industry to provide reassurance that work has been done correctly and done to high standards, which I think is a really important point. Again, reinforces that need for protection of people, protection for the consumer. And this slide also states that this is not the first time we've heard this, but it certainly sets out a plan for how to address this for the first time. There's already a number of guidance and supporting documents available, which are also supported by a kind of vast array of research. These include things like the 6 Steps guidance, standards for flood repair of buildings, guidance around flood resilient construction, smart test projects around flood resilience and technology. But given that all this guidance and kind of research is already there, it's already in place. Task Group 4 focused on a few other industry needs, and one of those was providing clear definitions. So firstly, what is resilience? Well, resilience is described as the ability of assets, networks and systems to anticipate, absorb, adapt and or rapidly recover from a disruptive event, such as flooding. They wanted to clarify some of the terms used, and this was picked up earlier in one of the presentations today around resistance technology and resilience technology. So again, resistance is essentially preventing water coming in. Resilience is dealing with the consequences once there is water in the building. Now, it might take some time to kind of standardise these terminologies across the industry, but it's something BRE are certainly keen to support through our links with industry and also our links with colleges, schools and universities. Again, just to give you some more examples around the definitions, in terms of resistance, it's constructing a building in such a way to prevent or minimise floodwater entering the building. So this can be through use of technologies and low permeable building fabric and materials. Flood resilience can be things like dealing with the water once it's actually in the home. So you can have horizontally placed plasterboard that can be lifted out and replaced. You can have electrical sockets placed higher on the wall so they're not affected by flooding, or you can have materials that are actually effective in resisting the effects of flooding, such as a tiled finish as opposed to carpet. So some of the challenges that came through Action Group 4 were that people don't believe they're at risk or enough at risk to take action, and again this was something that was picked up earlier today. But another one of the key issues were that people don't trust flood resistant or resilience technology, and there's not sufficient backup or protection for consumers in this area. And by protection we're talking about standards, accreditation, certification and skills. There's also a need to take the research and take the guidance and move that into practice, and action is required quite quickly in that area. So there are around 6 million properties that are at risk from flood risk in the UK. And there's only been about 20,000 instances of buildings actually being fitted out with technologies to provide flood resilience or resistance as yet. So there's a great deal of market potential here. However, what we don't want to see is an unchecked market that could actually do more damage than good. If people are installing products that aren't effective, or they're having effective products installed incorrectly, there's no quality checking aspect to that, then that can certainly cause some severe issues. Just to take you through some of the actual standards, and this is Stephen's area of expertise, not mine, so apologies if any of these are wrong. There's BS standards around assessing flood risk and development and surface water management, and Action Group 4 identified that there were no specific standards that required to be developed in this area. The standards were good, so essentially all that was required was further training for professionals, giving them professional guidance and kind of making sure that they have the knowledge to implement these standards. For flood surveyors, it was kind of a different approach to that. There's no existing standards for surveyors, and DEFRA research in 2015 actually identified this as a training gap, a competence gap, and that's something that has to be addressed in terms of professional skills, looking around building, water and flood management. So again, there's a need for training courses here, there's potentially a need for accreditation of people here, and if we could link that accreditation to building regulations, then that can certainly help to support the protection of people. Around resistance technology, there are standards in place. There's a PAS standard for flood protection products, there's an FM Global standard, there's another BS standard around anti-flooding devices, but the PAS and BS standards do not cover all product types at the moment, and not all products that are available on the market do actually have certification. There's also no enforcement of these products or the standards within building regulations. In terms of an actual resilient product or a resilient technology, again, there's no specific standard for that. There's maybe some methodologies, but they vary from place to place with no clear defined method. So what we need here is some demonstration projects. We need that to lead into standards to determine a consistent way of approaching this so that you can compare products like for like and ensure that the consumers get the best product available. In terms of building regulations and building standards, there's no current consideration for this. and it's certainly not a requirement. It's an area that has had research undertaken, but again, it didn't result in a change in building regulations. What we hope will happen is that through the development of standards, building regulations will be forced to consider this more seriously. It might not be a broad brush approach for the whole of the UK, but we can certainly look at flood risk areas for specific parts that are at risk. So within the overall process, there's some key aspects. There's understanding flood risk, which you want to have somebody competent doing that. You want to have correct data, you want to have the right algorithms and that kind of thing. In terms of actually surveying the property, you want to have accredited people doing that. You want to have accredited or certified people and certified products in terms of your design and specification. In terms of the construction work, you want to have accredited installers. And also in terms of maintenance and operation, once these products or technologies are in place, you want to give the users or the homeowners or the business owners the knowledge to understand how to maintain these and how to operate these correctly. So there are a number of gaps in the process in terms of knowledge, in terms of certified products and in terms of accredited people, both for surveyors and installers. So what we want to do at BRE is better protect people and create better and safer places. Now we think we can do this through combining robust standards, certification and training along with building regulations, but BRE can't do this all on our own. This is something we have to develop together as an industry with buy-in for each of these areas, as well as technical support. So what I would say to you is, as part of my new role, I'll be helping BRE develop some of these products and services. So wherever we can collaborate with anybody here that brings knowledge that BRE don't have, or brings data, or brings experience, I would love to have a chat with you. I'll be here for the rest of the day and for the Q&A sessions. So if you want to have a chat with me or you have any ideas, please get in touch. And that's it.